Hello and welcome back to the Podcasting Problem Solver. I'm Leah Bryant, your podcast growth strategist. So every July, like clockwork, the podcasting discourse shifts to the same topic. Downloads are down, engagement is slow, and everyone is blaming summer. And the advice that follows is always the same version of just push through, stay consistent, and don't give up. Well, I want to offer you something way more useful than that. The summer slump is real in the sense that listener behavior shifts with the season. But calling it a slump frames it as something happening to you, something that you need to survive and white knuckle your way through until Labor Day. And that framing, my dear podcaster, is costing you growth opportunities. The numbers dip because your listeners' habits shifted, not because they left you. And podcasters who understand their listeners' behavior in this season can lean into it rather than just endure it. The summer slump narrative treats all listeners the same. Downloads dip, so the assumption is that everyone checked out at the beach, nobody's listening to anything. And the prescribed fix is to keep publishing anyway because #consistency. But your listener didn't disappear, their context changed, right? The person who used to listen during her commute is now working from home 3 days a week with her kids underfoot. The coach who listened on her lunch break is taking that break outside now, which means shorter sessions and more distraction. The online business owner who binged your catalog back in January is in full client delivery mode through August and has less bandwidth for deep dive content. These aren't listeners who left you, but listeners whose habits have shifted. And a podcast strategy that doesn't account for that shift is going to feel like pushing against a wall until fall, which not a great use of your energy or your Sundays. So if summer is an attention shift rather than an exodus, the question becomes, where did the attention go, Leah? And how do you meet it there? Great question. So listener attention in summer moves in two directions. Some listeners go shorter. They want content they can consume in fragments, on a walk, during yard work, essentially while doing something else, right? And some listeners, they want to go deeper. They have more unstructured time and they're looking for that meaty, substantial content that they can sit with. Most podcasters try to average those two and end up serving neither audiences. The move is to identify your specific listener's type and lean toward that in your summer content. So if your listener is a busy service provider in delivery mode, short tactical episodes will serve them way better in July than your most complex framework breakdown. Give them something they can act on in 20 minutes or less, and they're going to stay loyal through the season. Now, if your listener is a coach with an intentional slower summer calendar, this is a window to go deeper. Episodes that are more detailed and teaching, the kind of content that takes real time to absorb and apply, they have the time right now to use it. The other thing summer does is shift where people discover new podcasts. So let me explain what I mean by that. So commute-based discovery drops off, and then leisure-based discovery picks up. So people who are on road trips, people with more downtime, people who have a Saturday afternoon to go down a podcast rabbit hole they've been meaning to explore. How people find your show matters more in the summer than at any time of the year because new listeners are looking in a way they aren't during the grind of Q1 and 4. And that's the attraction work, right? The findability infrastructure that makes sure that when someone goes looking for a show like yours on a slow Sunday in July, they actually find it. If your show title, your show description, and episode titles and episode descriptions aren't optimized for the searches that your listener is running, then that leisure discovery window is going to close without you in it. So if your show isn't set up to catch those summer searchers, that's worth looking at before August. And Insight, Position, and Found, that's some of the first work that we do. Getting your show visible to the right people before you spend another season wondering why your numbers aren't moving. The details are in the notes below. Make sure you go sign up for that waitlist before the waitlist closes. Cart opens August 3rd. I want to push back on something specific about the standard summer advice because I think it's doing real damage to how podcasters think about their shows. Just stay consistent. Treat output as the goal. Record, publish, repeat. And if you do that through a season where listener attention has shifted without changing what you're putting out or how you're promoting it, you're training yourself to measure success by publication count rather than by impact, right? It's giving Rocky training montage energy, except Rocky was training towards something specific. Most podcasters just running up steps with no finish line in sight. And that's how podcasters burn out. That is how shows die after a couple of years because the host ran out of steam producing content that felt like it was going nowhere. And I don't want that for you. The podcasters who grow through the summer are the ones who course correct. They look at their listeners' context and ask, what does this person need from my show right now? They think about which older episodes are worth re-promoting because they're right for where the listener is in this season. They think about whether this is a time to lean in on shorter episodes or to bring on guests who can carry some of the creative load. They make deliberate choices instead of defaulting to just keep going. That's the momentum phase. Reading your data, changing course based on what it tells you, and making smarter decisions from evidence instead of hoping this week's episode lands. Most podcasters skip it entirely because they're focused on execution, which is the publishing, that they never stop to look at what the numbers are saying. Momentum is where compounding happens. Summer, with its natural slowdown, is one of the better seasons to build that habit. Now, I had 2 clients that fit this episode as an example, and I had to tell you. So let me know if you relate to either one of them. And if you do, there's no shame here, just to let you know that. Both had podcasts with similar size audiences in the same niche going into the summer. Both saw a dip in their downloads in June and July. The first coach kept publishing weekly in the same format and topics she'd been covering all spring. By August, when she came to work with me, she was burnt out. Her numbers had stalled, and she was seriously considering taking a break from her show because the show felt like a treadmill. No pun intended there, because she was a fitness coach. The second coach and I looked at her listener data and noticed her shorter episodes were holding retention better as the season shifted. So I advised her to change course for July and August specifically to shorter solo episodes per month instead of the 4 longer ones. And she used the extra capacity to re-promote 3 of her strongest back catalog episodes with fresh social content. I also rewrote her show description with more specific language to target the searches her listeners would run in the summer. And her downloads were still lower than spring, but her email list grew faster in those 2 months than it had all year because the right people were finding her show and she gave them somewhere to go. She came out of the summer with more momentum than she went in and not less. Do you see the difference? One kept going on autopilot while the other treated it like a strategy problem worth solving. Now, before you record your next summer episode, this is what I want you to do. I want you to pull your consumption rate for the last 2 months and look at the patterns. Are shorter episodes holding listeners better? Are specific topics outperforming? That data tells you what your listener wants from you right now, and it's really worth 10 minutes of your time to look at. Then I want you to ask yourself 2 questions. 1, does my content format match where my listeners' attention is during this season? And 2, is my show set up to catch new listeners who are looking for a show like mine right now? If the answer to either is no, well, guess what your summer project is? Refining what you're already making and making sure those new people can find you. Yes. So if your summer has you questioning your show, here's the reframe before you do anything drastic. Step away from the matches. We are not burning anything down because the issue is almost never the season. It's never your content or what you think it is. Is that the foundation beneath the show isn't set up to withstand the shifts in your listener behavior. And that's the work that we do in Position and Found. It's 10 weeks to build the strategic foundation along with your SEO that makes your show work in January and July because the positioning is solid, the listener arc is clear, and your show isn't dependent on your audience never taking a vacation. Those details, like I said, are in the description below and in the show notes. So go take a look. And that is it for today. If this shifted how you're thinking about summer, share it with a podcaster who's been in full panic mode about their July numbers. They need this more than another just stay consistent pep talk. Remember, keep podcasting with purpose, keep your growth seamless, and I will see you next week.